Hey guys, we're back at it again with another NOM Studios podcast. Today in the studio, or on the other side of the camera, we have Derick Waller. A little background about Derick Waller. He's a five-time Emmy Award-winning news anchor who spent the last 15 years covering presidential elections, major weather events, and COVID-19 pandemic. Now running Waller Media, offering media training, corporate storytelling, and independent journalism through his YouTube channel. Derek Waller Reports. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's nice to have you on the podcast. You met through Adam Schwab. Can you tell me about that first interaction you had with Adam?
Sure. We actually met at a networking event on Long Island, I think in early December. And,
Yeah.
he's just such a personable guy that he just kind of goes up to everybody. And so he came up to me
Yeah.
and started a conversation. And, he's really well connected to lots of different people on Long Island. And he's a really
Yeah.
nice guy. And that's how we met because, he likes to introduce people. He's a connector. That's what he likes to say.
Yeah. He's a connector. He definitely is. He knows a couple of people. He introduced us. So,
Yeah.
um, going into a little bit about you, five Emmys,
Mhm.
15 years covering some of the biggest stories in American news, reporting from ABC7, the most watched station in the country, and then you walked away from all of it. But before we talk about why you walked away from that, take me back to the version of Derek that first walked into a newsroom. What did you think your career, where or what did you think your career was in store for you at that point?
Certainly. Well, I started in Charlottesville, Virginia at WVIR-TV NBC 29, and that was back in the summer of 2010. I had just graduated from college at Virginia Commonwealth
Mm,
University, an hour east in Richmond, which is my hometown. And it's funny. I went to school for journalism, and you learn all the mechanics of journalism, the ethics, how to do
mm,
research, how to write, how to verify sources and verify information, all that sort of
mm,
thing. But you don't really know how to do TV reporting until you're actually thrown into it and actually do it every
yeah,
day. So really, that was like on the job training, and I was very nervous, very young. People have always said that I have kind of a young look, which I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. It's just um, but is the video blinking or something? Do you see something happening with the video?
it just happened like really quick right there, but that's the first time I saw it happen.
Okay, I don't know. We're having technical difficulties with this stuff, but with this webcam. But anyways, yeah. I mean, I was nervous. I was young, naive, and
Mm,
my perspective has also changed because the business has changed. There was nobody doing YouTube journalism,
hmm.
back in 2010. Social media was really just coming into itself. So we were really operating in that legacy media mindset of, we're working on this video is going to drive me crazy. I don't know what's going on here, but hopefully it's not too distracting to people. But anyways, back in 2010, we
It's
didn't have
not.
social media the way we do today. A lot more people watched the news on traditional media, and so that's been a huge change in the last 15 years.
Yeah, yeah. So talking about that and legacy media, legacy media is a big thing to you. You want people to understand how the news actually gets made. So let's start there. When a story breaks and a reporter has 2 hours before they're live on air, what does that process usually look like? Because, you said verifying sources amongst other things. How's that process look?
Yeah. I'm just a little distracted by this like weird glitching camera thing. I want to just make sure like everything is all
Okay, no
verified
problem.
and plugged in correctly and there's nothing because that is really odd, isn't it? All right, we'll just you know everything's plugged in. I don't know. Anyways, you're talking about the process from breaking
Yeah,
news to getting on the air, and what was the
yeah.
specific end of that question? I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
Yeah, tell me what that process is like from verifying your sources and you have only an hour or two before you're live on air reporting on something. Where do you start to airtime?
Well, that's really the bread and butter of what I did as a reporter. I mean, most of the things we did, especially at ABC7 here in New York, was breaking news. And, a lot of journalists can take all day to put a story together. We're trained to We get our assignment at 9 o'clock in the morning. We start making phone calls, doing some research, setting up interviews, and then hopefully all of that raw stuff is done by maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then between like 3 and 5, you're writing your story, sending it to the editor, getting on the air. That's a pretty standard process. But with breaking news, that's really where you show what you're made of, because you've got to take that whole process and truncate it into whatever time you have. So sometimes that's an hour, sometimes that's 15 minutes. There'll be times where you get sent to a crime scene. Let's say it's 4:15 in the afternoon. You got to be on air at 5 o'clock, and you're going to a crime scene at 4:15. You may not get there until like 4:55, and they want you at the top of the five. So you literally have a couple of minutes to maybe assess the scene, maybe ask a police officer on the scene, hey, what's going on? Try to talk to some people real fast. At the same time, the assignment desk, Newsroom, and they're working their sources, making phone calls, checking for any information from police and first responders, public officials, that sort of thing, checking social media, and they're sending that to you. So that's really a group effort. But in that moment, there's a lot of leeway for the reporter to go on air and basically say whatever they want. So that is, the moment where you really earn your paycheck, because as a reporter, you are trusted to go on the air in front of, thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people, and choose your words carefully. Make sure you're getting the information out that's important, that people need to know. Deciding really on the fly, what am I comfortable saying? This source on the ground just told me this. Is that good enough to go on the air? That's a judgment call that, frankly, the reporter gets to make on their own in that split second moment.
Is
So,
that where you feel a lot of sensationalism comes from? Because there's those misconceptions that reporters lie or intentionally mislead. Is it because of that, short window of making sure your sources are true, and what really happens that people between that people don't see?
it's interesting you say that, because I know that there's this conception out there from some people that reporters don't tell the truth. And that's something that when I hear, it's always kind of jarring, because, when I'm reporting and I'm in that mode, that's not I don't think about that. I don't think that, oh,
Hmm.
people don't think we're telling the truth, because I don't know any reporters who are working in broadcast or print newsrooms that are intentionally trying to deceive people. I mean, that's just not, who gets into journalism to go and lie to people? That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. I got
Yes.
into journalism to tell the truth, to dig for information, to find out the real, root of what's problems, and try to help people understand their world a little better. And so, when I hear
Hmm.
that, it really is jarring. But I actually think, people's perception that reporters may be fibbing or stretching the truth comes from, frankly, a coordinated effort from some politicians to discredit the media over, decades. And I think that
Hmm.
right now, sadly, is paying dividends.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people are starting to see through that a little bit. But I actually think that the misconception that reporters sometimes lie is part of
Mhm.
a calculated, coordinated effort to discredit the press.
Yeah, and as you said that, I feel like, it's working for them. I mean, Washington Post just cut 30% of its staff, which I'm sure you have your feelings about. But as a consumer and as a journalist yourself, are there any type of, is there any type of framework that you personally would suggest or use for figuring out which outlets or sources can actually be trusted?
Oh,
Or do
absolutely.
you
I'm.
trust
Oh yeah. Sorry.
in general?
Yeah,
But go ahead.
absolutely. I continue to think that, legacy media outlets are still going to be the bread and butter for where you're going to get trusted, verified, accurate information. And the reason I say that is because they have established systems to verify information, and they've been doing this for decades and decades, or in a newspaper's case, maybe 100 plus years. So these are places that have systems in place. They have standards and guidelines. They have legal teams. They're oftentimes part of publicly traded companies, so they're answerable to shareholders. If NBC, for example, puts out a story that is just blatantly false,
Yeah.
that not only looks bad for NBC News, but that looks bad for Comcast, NBC Universal, and that could affect their stock price. I mean, these are
Yeah.
all interrelated things, and so there is an incentive as a news division to make sure you're presenting accurate information that is relevant to people without being sensational, because you want people to come back and continue consuming your product. So I think that, again, legacy media outlets, while there are some high profile examples of questionable things that are happening, especially as some of these companies try to merge and they're trying to favor Curry with the Trump administration, that is something that people should absolutely be paying attention to, and it's a reason to diversify your sources. If you
Mhm.
always looked at CBS News and now you have some questions about their leadership, that's understandable. I will say that most of the people who work at CBS News were working there before the new regime came in. So I think it's still a reliable source. But, if you have questions about it, well, maybe also check out the New York Times and,
Mhm.
CBS, ABC News and Reuters, and, using Google News as a way to get multiple sources from different outlets, or Apple News, or any of those kind of news aggregate platforms.
Mhm.
But I do think names that have been around for a long time are still the go-to place. Having said
Yeah.
that, I'm trying to do, and I am doing, some independent reporting of my own, backed by my 15 years of experience in those legacy TV newsrooms. So I'm trying to, use that credibility that I've gained with viewers on my own platform. And so, in this whole creator economy, where so many people are creating podcasts and doing their own
Mhm.
journalism, I think it's on the viewer, on the consumer of the news, to do their background and their research about who is this
Mhm.
person, where do they come from, what did they do before they were doing this YouTube channel, and really just being wise and savvy consumers of news, doing your own research. But some of
Yeah.
these outlets that have come up have no standards. I mean, the thing with social media, if like with an individual content creator, I don't have a law department that's telling me, oh, you can't say that, or you have to do this. I mean, I'm telling you kind of unfiltered what I believe to be true, and so that is good and bad, because
Mhm.
you don't have those systems in place, but you also don't have team of people filtering what you're saying. So it's up to the
Yeah,
consumer, is what I'm trying to say.
and I was just about to ask that. I mean, you launched Derek Waller Reports. I see a logo right behind you.
Well, that's the that's
Newsrooms are
the
cut
that's
it.
the parent
The
company, I guess,
The
the
parent
Waller
company,
Media,
Waller
which is where I
Media.
do
Okay.
this consulting and the video stuff, and then Derek Waller Reports is on YouTube, which is
Yeah.
in my branding. But yeah.
Awesome. And so independent creators are filling the space. You're jumping on that. And you just talk about the ethics, the law department, and meeting people where they are and the storytelling. I mean, do you feel like that's a good thing or a bad thing that, there's so many different places you could get news from people who have a 15-year, background like you did, or people who might not, who might just be starting it up as a hobby and just blew up? I mean, you know, how do you differentiate yourself from, any other creator or from a network in general?
Well, it's about picking a topic, kind of picking a lane, and hopefully staying in that lane. That's something that I've learned as I've been building this platform on YouTube and social media, is that these algorithms really favor uh, what they need to know what you're about and what kind of content you're creating, so they can share it to the relevant audiences. So if I'm doing news about, uh, you know, foreign national I'm sorry, if I'm doing like
Mhm.
international news on Monday, and then a story about Mir Mamdani on Tuesday, and then a story
Yeah.
about, you know, railroads in Japan on Wednesday, that's
Mhm.
confusing to the algorithm. So I would say my
Yeah.
advice to any of these individual creators is to pick a lane
Dating
that
lane.
you're interested in, that you think is maybe underrepresented in the media, maybe something that you look and see yourself that you not finding the coverage that you like, and kind of stick to that for a little bit, so that the algorithm knows exactly who to send that story to. So right now I'm focused on local New York City news, but more
Hmm.
specifically on politics, power, who's making the
Hmm.
decisions, kind of breaking down some of those complex issues. And
Hmm.
even more specifically than that, I'm starting to look more into like transportation um, and that sort of policy, because I don't see a lot of reporting specifically on that, at least in the video side of things. And so
Yeah,
I recently did a story where I went to a city that has fare-free buses because Mamdani is trying to do that with New
yeah,
York and trying to see how that works. And so some of you in New York may have seen recently that Waymo is now testing their autonomous vehicles around the city.
yeah,
So I'm working on a report about that now too, and how that's going to work.
yeah,
And obviously, there's concerns about that with taxi and Uber drivers. So
yeah,
that's shown some success for me. So I'm kind of trying to stick to that very
yeah,
specific local New York City kind of transportation lane,
yeah.
at least for the time being.
It's kind of funny how just speaking to you, I could tell your just background being as a reporter because as you're talking, I have follow-up questions. And, one of my questions was, what's something that's breaking right now that you could tell us right now? And you already went into it. So just seeing you go through or see where the conversation is going and lead that in a way where like you're answering my questions that are coming up in my head. It just shows your craft and how you refined it over the years.
I wish I could answer questions about why this video is glitching, but hopefully it's not too distracted people. It's driving me crazy. Just want you to know that.
That's the reporter in you wanting things. So that goes into another question. I mean, like, I feel like a video glitching with something that you'd send to IT at ABC7, but what's something that you could do now as an independent journalist, but you miss from being
Oh
in the
yeah, I am
newsroom?
the IT department now, so that's been real fun. But what do I miss? Well, I mean, the collaboration of a newsroom is really powerful, and that's why I say to people
Hmm.
that legacy news outlets are really still to me the gold standard of getting trusted, verifiable information. Because not only do you have the one reporter working on something, let's say a big story is breaking, a big newsroom is going to put several people on that story, and not just the faces, the people you see on camera, but also there's going to be people behind the scenes doing research, making phone calls, sending emails, and working together collaboratively to quickly put together something of substance. So that's something that I definitely miss. But I do think as an individual creator, there is an opportunity to do deeper dives on very specific topics that maybe you wouldn't get the chance to do on like the 5 o'clock news. So I think they can work together, and I think that in this time where we're so fragmented with so many options for news, it's really up to the consumer to seek out verifiable sources. So I think that is a mix of legacy media and some of these new creators who bring a different perspective.
Yeah. I mean, shifting gears a little bit towards, your parent company, Waller Media, behind you. You do media training, corporate storytelling for corporations, local governments, nonprofits. How did you figure out that the skills that you built in the newsroom were exactly what leaders on the other side of the camera needed?
Well, it came from I've been doing this for a long time and I really like it. That's basically what I asked myself is like, what can I do other than TV news that I'm
Mhm,
still interested in doing and that fits my skill set. So I've been shooting video and editing video in addition to being on camera for more than 15
mhm,
years. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of the job. The actual video production, the creative part of it to me is
mhm,
really, um, the most fun. It's ironic because in the New York City market, we have very strong union protections, which, I'm very grateful for. But
mhm,
that means that more often than not in New York, the reporter can't also do the video, can't
yeah.
edit the video. That is up to the photographer and the editor to do because
Yeah.
there's unions that are
Jobs, yeah.
making sure that these roles are delineated. So I didn't get to do much of that, frankly, when I was at ABC7 and CBS2. But
Mhm,
now I get to do all of it out of necessity. But also,
yeah.
I really do enjoy doing it. So I just wanted to make sure I could continue doing something and pouring myself into something that I enjoy doing. And I think that making videos for people professionally is something that I've been doing for a long time. Just I've been doing them for corporations, and now I get to do it for
Mhm,
myself.
yeah. So awesome. And so, I mean, what's something when doing media training that, without naming names, you see is a common mistake people make
Well,
in
I
front of the
think,
microphone, in front of the camera?
yeah. Well, I think the biggest mistake anybody facing any sort of controversy or crisis can make is to not say anything at all. And so oftentimes you'll probably a lawyer's advice is usually if you're a executive and your company is accused of some sort of wrongdoing, the lawyer's going to say don't say anything. But as a media professional, I would say obviously, yes, you should follow the lawyer's advice, but I also think that not saying anything makes people think that there's something fishy going on, that oh, you're guilty. Like if I'm covering a court case, for example, and court lets out for the day and the defendant walks out of the courtroom with his lawyer, I'm standing there with a microphone and the camera and I'm asking questions and they just either say no comment or continue walking by, we're going to air that we're going to air that on TV. And I think the viewer, uh, wrongfully or rightfully, will think, "Oh, what are they hiding? Why won't they say anything? Aren't they innocent? Wouldn't they
Yeah,
want to, tell people that
yeah.
they didn't do this?" So, having a plan, having a crisis communications plan, and having a statement that you can say that maybe it actually doesn't say anything, but it does
Yeah.
actually, you know, put something on the record
Yeah.
so that you don't look like you're hiding something or being
What do
sneaky.
you think is more important, court of law or court of public opinion?
Well, court of law, because that's the one that can you make you pay lots of money or go to prison. But but court of public opinion does play into that. I think. I mean, we saw
Hmm.
that with P Diddy.
Yeah.
Um, that his legal team was so savvy. I mean, he got the best people that money could buy, and it paid
Hmm.
off. Even though he was convicted on some of the counts, but those were the less serious ones. I mean, he was really
Yeah.
facing a lot more prison time than he got. And you know what they did was there were influencers, not non-traditional news people, people who were doing TikTok reels in the
Covering
courtroom.
the court.
Yeah, and they were feeding those people information and, getting to know them and making sure that they were friendly with those people. And those people have huge audiences in these social media platforms that are specifically looking for this information. And so, his team was able to very smartly use new media to their advantage. And also, we saw that documentary, the jury was
The
not
50.
sequestered. So
Yeah.
they could see all this stuff. I mean, there's nothing saying that
Hmm.
you can't turn on the TV. Now, maybe the judge sometimes will say, please refrain from looking at news coverage. But I mean, if you're at home and you open up TikTok and that pops up, that's that is indirectly influencing your opinion of the case.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So, okay. So I do have, since I asked you public, court of law, court of public opinion, I do have a quick rapid fire round for you of this or that. No explaining, just this or that. All right. Breaking news or deep dive feature.
Deep dive feature, I guess.
Okay. The storyteller in you. Teleprompter or off the cuff?
Off the cuff.
Off the cuff. Morning show energy or late night interview vibes?
Morning show energy.
Morning show. Okay, morning show energy. Y YouTube comments or never read the comments?
I'm not allowed to explain, but I would. You have to read the comments even if you don't want to. YouTube comments.
Okay, you need to read the comments. Tell the story, tell the story the audience wants, or tell the story they need.
They need tell the story they need. Yeah.
Go viral or go trusted?
Trusted.
Trusted. I personally feel like if you're going trusted, you're going to go viral at some
I
point
was gonna
anyway.
say that. I mean, hopefully both.
Yeah, yeah. Interview the president or knowing your background as a Southern Baptist, biracial, gay man. Interview the president or interview your 10-year-old self.
Oh, interview my 10-year-old self. That's interesting.
Okay, okay. At this time, that's a good pick. I mean, everybody wants this to be the current president.
Right? He has no shortage of things to say, so it's not like
Yeah,
he's easy to get in front of a camera. That's for sure. He
yeah.
doesn't hide.
Work.
That's one thing we can say about President Trump.
Yes, that's so true. Work the red carpet or work the crime scene.
The crime scene.
Okay. Send the tweet or sleep on it.
Sleep on it.
Sleep on it. Okay. And lastly, Emmy on the shelf or Emmy in a box somewhere.
My Emmys are on the shelf
Okay.
in
Awesome.
the
Awesome.
other
All
room.
right. Yeah, the room. We should put them behind so you can see them in the
Sometimes I
camera.
do, but it's weird because I'm in my bedroom, so it's like weird to be like looking at Emmys in my bedroom. But then I sometimes I forget to put. I'll put them there sometimes, and sometimes I don't. But yeah,
Awesome. So tell us where everybody can find you, what you want them to walk away from when they watch Derek Waller reports. Um, yeah, and how they could book you or find more about you.
certainly. Derek Waller Reports is on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@ Waller NYC. And I hope that people from watching some of my videos get a better understanding of issues that are impacting New Yorkers and more generally, people anywhere. But I try to answer questions that the viewer has in their own mind. I mean, questions that obviously come up in my mind, and hopefully I'm thinking like the viewer. And I just hope people watch some of my work and say, okay, I understand that better. That's really the overarching goal. Um, and also, as far as the Waller Media stuff with the video storytelling and media training, you can go to my website. It's DerickWaller.com, DerickWaller.com. And you can actually book an appointment with me very easily. It's right on the homepage. And so, again, I'm offering two things there, but they're related. Media training, so that's primarily for people who have some sort of public facing moment, executives who are preparing for a sit down interview with a reporter. Obviously, I was a reporter for 15 years, so I kind of know the mindset of what they're going to ask and what works and what doesn't. Perhaps you're going to be presenting on stage in a public panel of some sort like that. I can certainly help with that, with nerves, confidence, making sure your message is clear and confident and you're in control. And then the video storytelling part of that. So, I'm offering primarily to small and medium corporations, local
Hmm.
governments, nonprofits, that sort of thing, or really anyone who just wants a professionally produced broadcast quality video, say to show at a fundraiser or put on your website, on your YouTube, even if you're an individual person who just wants to spend a little money for your own personal brand and wants something of high
Hmm.
quality for your Instagram or your YouTube, I can do that too. So those are the three things that I'm offering.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for hopping on the show, Derek. I appreciate your time.
This is great. Great questions.
Yeah, I try. That's why I have you fill out that form, so I make sure I'm answering the questions that really ask you the questions that really matter. But that's a wrap. If this conversation gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Theo Massillon. This is NOM Studios. Stay creative and let's go make some noise. Thanks, Derek.